Hello everyone and welcome to this video. My name is Kathryn Rollins and I am one of the Wildgrace trainers, and I'm here today to teach you about trauma release, emotional release and tremor release. So all of these things are aimed at helping energy be moved out of the body. So when we have a stress response or a survival response, our bodies respond, our bodies react. So you'll notice a surge of adrenaline, of cortisol, and the nervous system fires up. So our sympathetic nervous system fires up and we have an influx of energy in the body, which is designed to help us to run away or fight. So if you imagine like a cave person back in, early days of humankind, if they were presented with a stressful situation, it might have been a tiger or a predator or some kind of conflict or some kind of crisis that they'd have to respond to. So it makes sense that our bodies are wired to help us to respond to situations like that. However, in the modern day and age, often what we find stressful aren't so physical. They're sometimes just even thoughts that we have, or maybe it's someone confronting us verbally and we're not able to run away or fight in the way that we might have once done. So we are instead more likely to stay really still and to sometimes just suppress the surge of energy and emotion that happens in those moments. And what happens then is that the energy isn't released. So the energy doesn't come out of the body, and instead gets absorbed into the surrounding tissue. So the fascia, the muscles, and that's when you start to find that you'll have tension in your body, or contraction, or even numbness, or even pain, injury, illness, because the tissue is absorbing all of this energy and emotion. Emotions are just energy in motion. So emotions are bodily sensations that are designed to alert you to certain things in your environment that want to move and want to be fully expressed. And again, we're often taught as children not to fully express our emotions. So instead of allowing, sadness to bubble up and come out of your face through tears and through sound, instead we often find that we are suppressing our emotions. So for most people in modern day life, we are full of these suppressed emotions. So it's really important that as we connect with our bodies, that we learn to move any stagnant energy that's present, any stagnant emotions, any stress response that's been caught up in the muscles. And that enables us to feel more relaxed in our bodies. It enables us to be more present. It enables us to just feel better, to have less tension. I know for me that when I started to do emotional clearing work, and I started to do this kind of somatic release work, that I noticed a big shift in my bodily health and my pain levels. So I used to get a lot of neck and back pain, tension through my hips, tension through my stomach. I used to be more just tense like this a lot of the time, more hunched. And now, because I'm very aware of sensations in my body and I'm able to quickly kind of move them through and embody them fully, I just feel more at ease in my body. And I'm also more able to kind of track what is happening and what's kind of moving, what I'm receiving, and what I'm feeling about certain things. So the benefits of doing this kind of work are immeasurable. So the first thing we're going to talk about before we start to do any particular techniques are the 5 tantric embodiment gateways. So these are the very simple tools that are the foundational pieces of getting into the body. And by that I mean being present with the body, being aware of the body, feeling the body. A lot of the time we're moving through the world really in our heads, in our minds, in the future, in the past. And when we're in our bodies, we're totally present, because you can't really be aware of your physical body in the moment and not be present. It's a very real, tangible thing. So to help us to get into our bodies, we have 5 gateways. The first is breath. So I would recommend you to close your eyes and just start to be conscious of your breath. And if you want to kick it up a notch, you can also intend to breathe into the belly. So expanding the belly on the inhale and relaxing on the exhale. Conscious breath. The second gateway is sound. So you want to add a little sigh on the exhale. And just, I really find sound to be one of the most helpful ways for me of dropping out of my mind and into my body. It helps me to kind of self-soothe, and I notice the vibration really just helps me to be settled, and maybe helps me to release any nervousness or anxiety that I might be feeling in the moment. The third one is movement. So if you're noticing a certain sensation, just moving. There's lots of different ways you can move. You can do circles. You can do like linear movement. You can just be exploring different movements through your body, and just moving the body will help you to drop into the body. The fourth gateway is touch. So I'm already naturally doing it. Touching your body. So say you're working with a certain sensation, maybe you're releasing something through your heart, and you might want to place your hands over it. It helps to amplify your awareness of that place in your body, helps you to connect with it more easily. And just touching different parts of your body can help you to activate or connect with those parts. And then the final gateway is awareness. So really starting to understand your awareness, where your awareness is, where is your focus. So when we're breathing, it's like maybe you're just doing something as simply as breathing into the belly. We're breathing, we're sounding, we're touching, we're moving. And we're pointing our awareness at it, so our full focus and attention is on the belly and on the breath. And just that simple act alone can make you feel more present, help you feel more connected to your body, and you can do that with all kinds of different parts of your body. So now we're going to do something called Tremor Release, which is a simplified version of a body of work called TRE. Essentially what it is activating the body's automatic tremor response to release energy and stress from the body. So you see it all the time in the wild. So maybe a deer is being chased by a predator. So what's happening in that deer's body is that their sympathetic nervous system has been activated, adrenaline, cortisol are being released, their flight response has kicked in, their muscles have fired up, and they've run away. When they finish running away, when they're back in a safe space, they'll often do a thing where they're just like, their body shakes. It's like it's shaking off that excess energy and coming back into a state of homeostasis. Humans are exactly the same, except for that for most of us, have suppressed this automatic response. So I have, in the last year or so, retrained my body to do this, and I do it all the time. So when I'm stressed or I notice there's a little build-up, I just have to kind of, consciously turn it on or allow it, and it'll just happen. So often for me, what that looks like is just like my abdominal muscles will just kind of contract and release, and it's like, and I'm just like, energy is just like kind of falling off me. If you've never done it before, the best way to get into it is to lie down on your back with your knees bent. Relax your torso. Have your feet and knees sort of hip distance width apart. And then just start to splay your knees out to the side. And find the tension point where they start to automatically shake. So I'll show you from this way. So hip width distance apart, and then just start bringing them out to the side, slowly finding a point where they start to tremor. Once you've got this shake happening and you're not doing it consciously, you're doing it, just allowing it to happen, you can use your breath and your awareness, two of the embodiment gateways, to bring it up into the body, into the torso. So you'll notice that for me, automatically my shoulders started to go. My neck and head tilted back, and I was just allowing that to happen. So the tremor will go to the place in your body where you're holding tension, where there's unreleased energy, and you can just keep doing this for maybe like 5-10 minutes at the most. Certain music can really help, so like didgeridoo is a really great instrumental accompaniment to tremor release. It's just something about it really helps to kind of take you to that place. And you just allow this tremor, like I can do it sitting up because I've done it before. Like I'm not doing this on purpose, this is just happening. I just have to allow it. And my body will do that until it's done with that part, and then it'll move to something else. It can be surprisingly tiring, and it's a really good idea once you're done sort of doing this for like 5-10 minutes, just lying in corpse pose, Shavasana, your palms up, and just rest. Let the body rest. So one thing that tremor release is especially good for is releasing the psoas muscle. So the psoas muscle is a muscle that runs across the body from the top of the femur up to, going too far, but up to part of the spine. So it's the main muscle that holds the top part of the body and the lower part of the body together. And it's the muscle that gets really activated when you're in a stress response or a survival response. So fight, flight, freeze, tendon befriend. It gets contracted, and it is often the muscle that stores a lot of that sort of survival generated emotional energy if you're not releasing it regularly. And so when you're doing tremor release, this muscle gets a chance to release. It's quite deep inside. It's quite difficult to access just from massage, although you can have it massaged. And yes, you can use tremor release to help release emotions and energy that's trapped in the psoas muscle. So there are a few things to keep in mind when you're doing any kind of cathartic release practice. The first is it's really good to stay as present as you can with the sensations that are being triggered in the body. So once you are in a state of catharsis, just keeping that little observer, witness part of your being online. So you're watching sensations as they move. And this presence, this loving presence, allows those sensations to fully resolve. So what can often happen with people is that we tell a story in our minds of an event or something. It generates a sensation in the body, an emotional response, that if we continually feed the story, we're continually recreating the emotion in the body and we're not actually moving it, that's a form of re-traumatization. So instead of moving the energy through and out, we are instead just reinforcing it or recreating it. So it's really important that, you can definitely touch on stories as a way to access certain emotional responses. And I do this in my one-on-one work with people where, they'll come to me with a certain behavior or a certain trigger or an unresolved, trauma or memory. So I'll get them to touch on that with their minds, but then I'll quickly redirect them into just being present with the sensation in their bodies, because that is what actually allows it to resolve. And it's also what makes it less stressful. So when we're in a story or a memory, that can be very stressful for the body. But when you're just present with the sensation, it's so manageable. It's what Eckhart Tolle talks about in The Power of Now. It's that ability to be present with something so that it can fully resolve. Because in essence, as I've said already, emotions are just sensations in the body. They're not something that you need to be afraid of, but we have a lot of story and conditioning around emotions and emotional expression. So coming back to that sense of being present is what really allows us to move it fully through, and then, learning these tools and techniques to help that energy be released. So we're going to move into some emotional catharsis tools now, emotional release, emotional embodiment, whatever you want to call it. So for this, you're going to need a couple of pillows. I've got a couple of pillows here. I do this fairly regularly. This is a regular practice of mine. It's something that I do a lot. I view it as something that is essential to really everyone's daily practice. It's one of the key things that I teach people, because we experience emotions all the time, and unless we're fully expressing them and moving them through, they're gonna get stored in our bodies in some way, shape or form. So it's so important, especially with things like grief and sadness and anger, and it's the more taboo emotions that we give them space to move and to be fully expressed and fully felt. So the very first thing you want to do is to create a safe space. It's essential that you are able to feel safe while you're doing this. This will allow you to be totally present. It'll allow you to be fully with yourself through the experience. Many people have trauma around abandonment. And one of the ways that this is reinforced is that we abandon ourselves. So say you were often shamed for being angry as a child. In adulthood, when you feel anger, do you stay with yourself or do you leave yourself? You're like, hey, see you later, I'm out of here. I'm not going to stay with you while you experience this. So one of the ways we can repattern that is to be really present with ourselves while we're feeling all the full spectrum of emotions. So find a safe space. I'd recommend like a bedroom, somewhere where you can close the door. If you are planning to make sound and you live with other people, you can even just let them know that you're going to be making sound, that you might be shouting. There are also ways to kind of limit the amount of sound that you're making, and I'll show you these. But sound is such a core part. One of the biggest things that we suppress again as human beings is sound. We're like, be quiet, shush, children like shush, stop talking, stop shouting, stop screaming. So we suppress so much of our sound, and that's one of the key ways that we release emotion, that we express our emotion. So we're coming back to the basics here. Essentially, we're having a tantrum. And allowing ourselves to have that tantrum. So once you've created your safe space, you let your housemates or your family know that you're going to be doing some release, and that's okay, it's safe, don't worry about it. Find like a soft surface. I would say on the floor is good. I personally have this furry rug that I use. You could also use like a blanket or a yoga mat or some combination. It's just for your knees and so if you're hitting the floor, you're not like hurting yourself. And then have at least kind of 2 pillows, maybe you want more than that. Just enough that, you know, when you come down with your arms, that you're not going to hurt yourself. So set yourself up. And then I'm just going to show you like a range of movements and motions that you can use with the Embodiment Gateways, breath, sound, movement, touch, awareness to help you to release emotions from your body. So it may be that you are triggered, great time to do emotional release work. Maybe you're just feeling angry, or you're feeling sad, or you're feeling something and you want to just move it through. This is also just a good thing to do as a regular practice to help release the buildup of emotions, especially if you are very contained day to day. It's good to create space for this. So yeah, I'm just going to show you some of the basic moves, and these are also just designed so that you don't hurt yourself while you're doing it. If you could just let loose on the pillows, but these are good ways to really optimize your practice and get the most benefits. So the very first one is just hitting pillows. So the way that I do this is I get onto my knees, I have my pillows set up in front of me, and I come up with my hands together or my fists separate, thumbs on the outside, seems important. Come up, you want to stretch up through the front of the torso, bring the chin up a little bit, and then come down with an exhale, with some sound. So you're coming down and you're hitting the pillows. And so I'm really maximizing the movement through my hips, through my torso, really opening up through the throat and through the chest as I come up. And what this does is it just allows more energy to move and come up out through the body, as opposed to like if you're just, you know, doing it like this, you're not getting the full release and full like potential of the move. I like to pair this one with pillow screaming. So this is one way to kind of muffle sound if you're wanting to make sound. You can hit the pillows like I was doing just then, and then come down and just like, and I like to shake through the spine. Again, it's a way to really help the energy move out of the body. So we're moving through the spine. You can also bring the pillow up and hold it. And then come up, do some more pillow hitting, and then screaming. So that's a really good combo. You could honestly just do those and that would be great. The grief pose or the crucifix pose. So this is really great for releasing grief, sadness. So you might do that a bit, like a more active, like getting the body kind of activated, and then you can come up and just tilt the chin up, not too far back. You don't want to be like cutting off the spinal column. You just want to be opening through the chest, through the throat, and then just making some sound. You can do it down on your heels like this. You can do it up, so you're kind of thrusted forward with the hips. And just allow any kind of undulation to happen as well through the body. And if there are tears there, let them come. Let the sound and the tears happen. We also have pillow thrusting or pillow humping. So there are a couple ways you can do this. So the first is a more kind of masculine way of doing it, where you are more like thrusting through the hips. So coming down, you want to kind of place it so you're going to hit it with your hips like this. Or you can do it in a more kind of feminine way and like more like kind of like this. And so what this does is it activates through the legs and through the hips. It's also really great for releasing any like frustration, tension. If you have a sense of powerlessness, it can also feel really good just to kind of like get that motion happening, feel in control, feel dominant. All of these movements are designed to work with the body's meridian lines. So the emotions, according to Chinese medicine, run through the body on these lines. So there's different lines that run through the body and they hold different kinds of emotions. So a lot of anger gets stored in the legs and through the hips. Grief, sadness tends to be stored up through more this part of the body. You've got the sort of main governing channel, the more masculine channel that runs down the spine, over the top of the head to the top lip. The more central feminine channel that runs down the front of the body. There's all kinds of meridian lines that run through, so these moves are designed to access different emotions. This is more of a yoga pose style one. Again, it's sort of activating through the legs. It's also activating through the arms and through the spine and through the hips. This is called rowing the boat, and it's just good for helping emotions to activate. So if you're having trouble accessing your anger or any emotions really, these movements are really good for doing that. So this next move is very similar to rowing the boat, but instead of having your legs together, we're going to have our legs apart. So this is helpful for activating the gallbladder and liver meridians that run down the inside of the legs. So you want to stir and go. It's also activating through the torso, through the spine, and it's a good way to wake up any dormant emotions. So then you can go the other way. So this next movement is called stomping. It's very straightforward. You basically just want to and you can bring in your arm movement as well. This next one is another yoga posture. It's called chopping the wood, and we do it from standing. So you're wanting to come down with your fists together. It's kind of like pillow hitting, but from standing, and it really activates through the legs. So helping to activate anger. Very similar movement to that is the frog. So you want to come into a kind of like a frog pose like this with your feet and your legs out to the side, hands on the floor, and we're going to breathe in as we come up, and down, and out as we come down. So with these ones that are very active, just be mindful of your body and how you're feeling. Whether it's too much, you may find it's a bit straining on the legs, in which case you can do something a little less intense, I would say, like stirring the pot or rowing the boat would be equally as effective, but just less activating. So on a very simple level, just contracting and relaxing can help energy to be released. So say you're feeling really tense through your shoulders, instead of trying to like forcibly stretch them out, you can also tense them and release them. If you're feeling tension through your head, through your mind and through your jaw, if you've been thinking a lot, you'll often find that you have quite a sore jaw or like a sense of kind of pressure in your head. So a really good one for relieving that is to take your tongue and just circle it. In your mouth, over your teeth. And going both ways. So we've talked a little bit about the survival responses. So when we get triggered, when there's some kind of stressor in our environment, we tend to respond in one of four ways. And people generally have one that's like their go-to, their preference. You can also have a lot of this energy kind of stored in your body. So these are fight, flight, freeze, and tend to befriend or fawning. So, you know, fight, flight are both very active. You essentially mostly just need to kind of, you know, expel the energy and then maybe do some emotional release or that kind of thing, or some tremor. With freeze response, it's a little bit different because it can really get trapped in the body. So say you were, you know, a child who was in stressful situations that they couldn't leave much as a child, you may have a lot of freeze response kind of in you. And what this can feel like as an adult, and I've worked a lot with people who have this, is feeling like you kind of check out of situations, feeling unable to speak or articulate yourself when you feel a little stressed. You're just noticing that you kind of like you're there, but it's hard to move or respond. Typically there's a lot of shame associated with this because people don't really understand that it's like a bodily response. But you can release this freeze. So sometimes it'll come up naturally as you're doing cathartic release work. Other times it might be that you could tap into a memory where it happened and really have that in your mind and then feel the sensations in your body. And then the way to release it is to just really feel it, and then you can consciously release it by tensing everything. So you can do it sitting up or you can do it lying down. And you basically just want to inhale, tense everything, and hold for as long as you can, and then relax everything. And do this a few times, as much as you feel you need to move that freeze response out of your body. So you can do it lying down as well, so on your back. And you may notice that there are emotions sitting beneath that freeze. So just then I had this sense of like, oh, I want to cry. A sense of like, I want to cry. And oh, you notice like for me, the tremor starts to go. So even if you don't have a memory associated with it, you can still do this motion and see how your body responds and whether, you know, you feel like a release once you've done it. So all of this you can just do. You can set up a space. You can be like, all right, I feel like today's a good day to do some emotional release work. I'm gonna just like hit the pillow, scream into the pillow, you know, thrust, hump the pillow, you know, hit the floor, you know, stomp, do these motions, and then freeze, and or, you know, grief pose, and explore and see. So the final one I want to teach you is a way to release sound and frustration and anger if you don't want to make any noise. This is really, really helpful for situations where, you know, maybe you're at a party, you're in a public place, or like you can't kind of immediately leave and, you know, go and express your anger in a more physical, loud way. It's called a hand scream. So essentially what you're doing is you're giving the full force of a scream, but without the sound. You want to cross your palms over like this, one hand in front of the other. You want to essentially seal off your nose and your mouth. You want to take a breath before you do this. And you'll notice this again, that I was shaking through the spine, through the back as I was doing it. And I was giving out a full force scream. The diaphragm activates, the muscles activate all in the same way, just you're not making the sound, and also you're not putting strain on your vocal cords. So what can happen when we're doing emotional release work with a lot of sound is that you can actually hurt your vocal cords. So this is also great to avoid doing that. So thank you guys so much for being here today to learn about trauma release and tremor release from the body. I hope that you received some good knowledge today, and you will go away and use these tools, try them all out, see which ones work for you, and implement them into your daily life and into your daily practice.